Hello, my name is Michele, and you're listening to Profit is a Choice. With us today is Anastasia Harrison of AHD & Co., as well as with AHD Trade. Anastasia is a licensed architect and an interior designer with a primary location in New Jersey. Her business has grown and changed since she first started, and now we're going to be talking about how it has diversified with a trade-only showroom. So join us and listen in, and I hope there's some great takeaways for you. Every day, empowered entrepreneurs are taking ownership of their company financial health and enjoying the rewards of reduced stress and more creativity. With my background as a financial software developer, owner of multiple businesses in the interior design industry, educator, and speaker, I coach women in the interior design industry to increase their profits, regain ownership of their bottom line, and to have fun again in their business. Welcome to Profit is a Choice. Hey, Anastasia, welcome to the podcast.
Good morning, Michele.
I'm excited to talk to you. We've been on one time before, I think. Weren't we on didn't we do another podcast a while back?
Yeah, a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I'll find it, link it in the show notes. People will be able to follow your journey. But one of the things we're going to talk about today, diversifying our business. And we've heard about diversifying and diversification, all the terms in a couple of different ways, but you've taken a little bit different tack than maybe some others have. And so I want to make sure that we have an opportunity to explore that. Let's go back to the beginning and kind of set the stage for when you went out on your own to start your own business. Tell us what it looked like upon inception.
So when I went out to start my own business, it was clear to me that there were two houses of design. There were architects and there were interior designers, and none of the two shall meet during the design process, right? Architects came in and they designed what they designed, and then interior designers came in and then they undid what the architects did, and they never spoke kindly of each other. So my first project was actually a very small family room addition for a friend. Like, going out on your own is really scary and you don't know where to start or what to do first. So, starting with friends is always really comfortable. And I started with this family room, and she needed everything. She needed the wall colors, she needed the furniture, she needed the window treatments, the rug, all of the things. But more importantly was the space planning. It was just an addition. It was just a 20 by 20 addition off the back of her house. But how did we design it so that all the furniture fit her needs, right? So we had that conversation. How big's the TV? What kind of sofa sitting are we looking at? Is it football sitting? Is it serving tea sitting? Like what is the purpose of this room? And through that, I realized that when you look back at the master architects, that we all know in our time, like Frank Lloyd Wright or Le Corbusier, they all did their own interiors. And it was really about how the space is one cohesive, beautiful space. So it's architecture and interiors. You're designing the spaces to fit the need as opposed to just building a building and then figuring out what the room is. It's not just living room. It's living room with a purpose.
I love that. So how did you then, because you have a background in architecture yourself, don't you?
I'm a licensed architect. Yeah. I'm licensed in 2 states. I'm licensed in New Jersey and in Florida. Yeah. I've been practicing architecture for 30 years.
Right. So then you had this perfect opportunity to merge the two. Not everybody that has an interior design degree also has the architecture and vice versa. Right. So you had this already combined ability to see a space from both directions, like you're saying, both the architecture and from the direction of the interiors. I'm curious, just from, and we'll call it anecdotally, just like what you have experienced. Why do you think there has been such a divide or a disconnect between those two modalities?
I think architecture became, residential architecture, right? The homes, it became very commercialized through the 90s to the early 2000s, there were these factories of houses that just had to be pumped out. So you had developers that were building a spec house that had that open floor plan that I personally do not like. And then just you built it to standard spec. Today we would know that as gray walls, white kitchen, blue island, natural hardwood floors, like the standard stuff builders build. And then design became important again. And interior designers have always been needed and very important when it comes to putting all of those components together in a home. But the two just sort of fell apart and became different. And when you are working with an interior designer, they do a lot more programming than an architect does. And I can talk from both sides of that because I do both. If I'm just doing architecture, I still ask all of the questions an interior designer asks, but I also work on projects where other architects have done the building, and it's my responsibility to then do the interiors for that. But I do it in such a way where I really start to ask questions, involve the architect. I really like to be involved with interior design if another architect is working on the project at the planning stages of it, schematic design, not when it's all done. But if it's all done, I'll still work well with that. But it's really helpful when the two minds are in the same place.
So when you started your own firm, did you do it with the idea that you were going to do both, to go ahead and marry both from the very beginning?
Yes. Yes.
And did
yes,
you
absolutely. That was,
yeah, go ahead.
sorry. No, I say absolutely. That was sort of our difference is what was the difference that we brought to a project was the fact that we're going to do the outside and the inside, and we're going to pay attention to the details.
So when you started, were you the only architect in your team, or did you immediately hire another architect to join you?
No, it was me, myself, and I. The architect, the interior designer, the draftsman, the procurement manager, the marketing. It was all me.
You probably also stocked the coffee and cleaned the bathrooms and did all those things too.
Made the beds. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, we all did that. So how far into your business growth, right? Because you've owned your own firm for what, 9 years, 10 years, something like that? You're getting
11.
11.
We're coming up
okay.
on 11.
Okay. So how long into that before you decided to hire? Because you now have another architect on your team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we currently have 5 interior designers. We have 1 architect. We have an intern. We have procurement manager and an office operations person, and a part-time bookkeeper.
Okay, so when you started offering architecture, let me ask you this. I'm curious. I don't even know that I remember the answer to this. Do you all offer architectural services for other firms or other companies that do not use your interior design? Or is your architecture kind of arm of your business to support only your interior design clients?
No, we do all aspects of design. So if a client comes in and they only want architecture, we will only do architecture. But like I tell them, I don't shut off my interior design brain. So I'm going to ask them more questions than a regular architect does, just to ensure that the space is going to function as they intend it. We do furniture design, like space planning, furniture layouts in schematic design for architecture. But then that's where we leave it. And then it's up to them to pick colors, finishes, all the final bits and pieces. We work on, our sweet spot is really where it's a project that needs an architect, but didn't need a full-blown architecture project. So maybe it's a small bump out, or it's completely reconfiguring the ground floor, moving the kitchen to the other side of the house, where, you need an architect and the structure and moving the walls, but you really needed the brain of an interior designer. So that's really how we sit well with that kind of project.
Have you, since you have looked at architecture being part of what you've done and the services that you've offered from the very beginning, I know there are a lot of designers that struggle. They either have, because they don't have it as part of what they have as part of their initial offer, right? So they're either having to work with a third-party architectural firm, or they're trying to outsource to get it in to be able to get those things done. Have you found that it's been a lot more seamless for you to have that full-time, not just you being the architect, but also having another full-time architect on your staff? Have you found that it just allows for a smoother process for those that you serve?
Oh, yeah, but that's the case with anything, right? Like if you're just doing interior design and you try to do everything yourself, you got to buy back your time to do what you're best at. And having another architect on staff it's invaluable because that person is also can help and lead the interior designers when they have questions if I'm not available. So between the two of us, we can help shape and mold those projects to be what they eventually become, which is sometimes not the way people envision their projects. Like somebody say, okay, I want to renovate my kitchen and this is what I would like to do. And this is what I think. And then I'll walk in and, I'll turn it upside its head and I'll move the kitchen across the house, or I'll close in an open foyer. I'll do some crazy things because I know how I can push and pull the structure. And she has that same ability. So it's very helpful to have other people to support my crazy ideas.
So when you started building the firm, I know that initially your idea was we would be able to offer, let's say, I'm just going to call it, and you can correct me if I kind of identify it incorrectly, but kind of small architecture, like you're saying, not full blown. We're not building houses from scratch architecture, but more of smaller architectural with the design is kind of the sweet spot. So you had already kind of planned for that being the two, I'm going to say together offerings, but also separate to some degree, right?
Mm-hmm.
As needed.
Mm-hmm.
Did you kind of anticipate at the very beginning of starting that would be the extent of kind of what your business would do?
I thought that was the one magic sweet spot, and that's what I was going to do, and that's all. Not really understanding what else I could do with the business, but then the interiors side of the business really grew fourfold of architecture. So there's a higher value placed by clients on interior design rather than architecture, and sort of working my way, leapfrogging between the two. Our interior design business is 4 times the size of our architecture business currently.
So when you started seeing kind of that growth, right, on one side that, as you mentioned, was leapfrogging, it's really starting to grow quickly. What did you start doing and putting in place for your own company just to meet that demand, that growth demand, and to stay on top? I know you hired, right? But comes a certain point where you're looking for a scale here. So what did you do internally to meet the demand that was coming with massive purchasing that went along with the interior design?
We really looked at all of the different tasks. How do we create standard operating procedures to automate that? And then did it make sense for us to put it in one person's hands? And we had a project manager here on the team who was doing a little bit of everything. She was the person that was fixing projects that just couldn't get finished, that last handle that wasn't in stock, or just all the little things that make us all so crazy. And then she became this procurement genius, right? So she started to run the procurement department. She created SOPs, used the software that we are using to commandeer that process and understand what is where in the world. So when you're selling a couple $1 million a year of goods, you got to track it down. And through COVID, that was pretty torturous. And the fact that it was one person that could manage all those things, she knew where everything was, or why it was delayed, or because it's one brain, one human managing everything for our entire team. And it was pretty evident to us that she had a greater capacity and a greater calling. So through that, we created a whole nother business called AHD Trade, which is where we sell furniture and case goods and all the things, fabrics, finishes, to other interior design professionals at a level where they can still mark it up and make profit for themselves and still be a profitable business as opposed to buying retail.
You know what was interesting through that process, because I've journeyed with you on a good portion of that. I remember being at one of the elite retreats that I host here, and we had been talking about, I think you had just started to really centralize all of that ordering back. That was probably around 2020 maybe. And you would 2020, 21, you would really centralize all of that. And I remember when she really started getting her arms around it, right? Because she even came back to you and made a comment, oh my gosh, look how much we're buying with this vendor. Let's go see if we can do better. Or this is how much we bought from this vendor. If we can reach this next level, we're going to get another set of discounts. And I'm going to call it, she kind of started hound dogging it a little bit, and we were cheering for her. She was like, okay, wait. And I think, and you would probably agree with this, Anastasia, it's because she was able to have the full picture, right? So when each individual designer, let's say that you had a design firm that had 5 designers like you do, and all 5 ordered all their own things. Sometimes you're not even seeing the full picture of any work with any vendor, because there are 5 different touch points within your own firm. And so, there is that ability to scale by putting things together and getting better buying power and doing, because you're centralizing it. I'm not saying that decentralizing doesn't work and that you can't do that. Somebody's got to oversee all 5 of those and collectively pull it together to start having that conversation. But for your team, it almost jumped off the page because it was so centralized, so that when she started thinking that way and looking that way, it just became self-evident that, oh, wow, we have some opportunity here to do better. Do you remember that? I remember you talking and sharing.
It was fabulous. It was so exciting because you don't know what you don't know until you know it, right? Like, you think, oh, I'm saving 50% off of retail. How wonderful. I'm so excited. But there's another level, right? There's another level that you don't even know exists. And you're still going to sell said coffee table at, I don't know, $800, whatever it may be. But now I'm not buying it for 4, maybe I'm buying it for 3 or 325, right? So it's just pure profit, because you are already paying what you're paying to design, you're paying to manage, and you're paying to purchase. So if that delta just gets better, it's just that much more, rewarding at the end. And she also manages those accounts, and she has personal relationships with every one of those vendors. So what that does is it sets us in really good standing with them. If something's wrong, or we need something faster, or something's broken for the 3rd time in a row, she's got a real person that she has a good relationship with, that she can just make a telephone call and get it repaired or fixed or replaced in no time. So that part of the business is invaluable. And, I will say that, it's primarily all her doing all of this, which was fabulous to have somebody come to you in your business and say, here's a plan. Here's what I think we could do. Here's some ideas. What do you think? Can we brainstorm? And that's when you said to me, okay, sit down every 2 weeks and do it. And we did. And we built a business out of that, which is very exciting. And we're in the beginning stages of it, but we have this full showroom where designers come on a regular basis, and they sit on stuff, and they can bring clients, and they can look at all the fabrics we have. And it's just a nice diversity to the business. It takes a little of the pressure off.
So I've got a couple different thoughts on this. One, I want to really commend you. And I know that you've worked hard towards this, Anastasia, because we've been coaching together for probably 3-4 years now. And one of the things that I think that is so amazing is, this is one of the parts that drew me to you, even at the beginning. I don't know if I ever shared this with you, but it was that you really cared about the people that you were hiring. Like I mean, we hear this all the time, their family. And I know that they're not like deep family. Like let's not get too twisted about, you know what I mean? We got to keep some boundaries, some healthy boundaries. But I also think that you care about each of your employees individually, and you care about their growth. You care about their being a good leader for them. You care about them really discovering who they want to be in their job and in their role. And then I know that you work very hard on making sure they feel seen and heard and expanding their roles to meet their growing skill set, because you don't hire them in expecting them to be happy with the status quo and to stay there. And so to even provide the environment that your team member could come to you and say, hey, I found a part of the business now that I've collected the pieces that I really love. And I think that there's a way that we can make this bigger and more. And I would like to do this on a bigger scale than what just AHD can offer me with buying, right? So how can we explore this and expand this? And then you having an openness instead of being like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do something else. You're sitting back and going, okay, bring me a plan. Like, let's talk through it. Let's walk through it. And so she almost has the equivalent of her own, I'm going to say mini business, right? Her own little revenue stream that she helps manage within AHD as the umbrella. And it's turned out to be something really beautiful. How does it feel for you to have coached her in that process of growth because I remember we've done a couple of group calls, all of us together. And when we would start explaining some of the business things, you could see like, because it's different, right? When you go from being an employee with an idea that now is its own kind of business model within the others. But how does it feel for you to have coached her and supported her, and then also had an employee that was willing to grow and bring such a great business idea to you?
It's so fulfilling, because to grow a business, everybody, we all look at, the big hitters of the world right now, like who's popular. And I'm not even going to go into who, because we all know who is popular right now. And they didn't get there by themselves. They didn't do it all by themselves. I'm the spinning top in this firm. They all know that I am the one that's constantly making a twirl to come up with some idea or some grand new plan for something. But I can't execute them all. Nobody can execute them all. So to inspire an employee of yours to have their own inspirations, I want to support that. I want to build that. I want to do that for every one of them, because together we'll be more successful than I would ever be alone. So I don't want an employee for 2 to 3 years. I want an employee for life. So how do I do that? How do I make a role that they're satisfied with for the rest of their career, basically, or at least the rest of my career? And then how do you legacy that business out? There has to be an exit plan and a strategy. And can that be part of that plan as well? And if they built it, why can't we come up with a strategy for when I do exit? And that would become part of that plan as well, which just makes it sweeter for everybody.
When we talk about the Fix This Next book, and it talks about the business hierarchy of needs, it starts off with sales and then profit and then order. And most companies only get those three. They get their sales locked down, they get profitability locked down, and order, those SOPs, that repeatable. Very few businesses take the next two steps, which are the two steps that I believe that you are looking to take in your business and are already setting the groundwork for. And that's impact and legacy. And that impact is having an impact outside of just you, Anastasia. It's having an impact in the local community, in an extended community, in the lives of the people that are there, having management turns so that people are growing. And it's not just we're redoing this. It's not just the business of doing the same thing. It's really making an impact outside of just your business. And then that legacy piece is, how does this go on even when Anastasia's not the one twirling? What if somebody else were doing the twirl, right? And you were off doing something else? How do we build that? And so it's really neat to see. They say that 80% of businesses only get to order. There's only about 20% that take the next two steps. Those are the ones that we see, like your Home Depots, or, the ones that you can see where they've replaced the CEO from the person who started the company and somebody else is there. And it can happen on a smaller scale and more micro businesses and small businesses. But it's really nice to see you thinking and planning ahead for that. Let me ask you this. This wasn't a fast, quick thing. Some people, I think, may assume that because you've been doing procurement for a while, that when your employee came to you and said, hey, I think we should do this, that you're like, okay, fine, let's just go, give me the plan and let's just go do it. But that is not what happened here. This was, I'm going to say, even from my standpoint, working with you on this has been a thought out process. It's been well over a year in the creation of, I'll let you
Two.
go.
It's been 2 years.
2 years. Lots of conversation, not only just internally, but conversations with vendors. Let's don't miss the point that to build a true trade company, this isn't just your company deciding, it's your company deciding and having conversations with your partners in the vendors, because they've got to know what's happening and what's coming. And some vendors don't want these types of relationships and some do.
No.
So you really did the work, right? And I say that because not everybody who says, I'll go order for you or order on my account is really set up properly to have a trade relationship that is honored by both the designer ordering and the vendor on the other side. So it takes some due diligence in a lot of ways to make this work. Tell a little bit about what that journey is to make this more than just, I'm a buying person for other people. That's not what we're talking about here.
So it was a huge undertaking because our offices were 600 square feet. That's what 7 people worked in for the better part of our time as a firm. And everybody was on top of everybody. That we had one chair. This is all started. I still have that chair. I'm never going to get rid of that chair. We have one CR Lane chair. That was our sit test, and it had 3 different cushions. And we knew that if we were going to embark on this journey, that I had to really look at investing some serious money into this design idea. And we were going to do an addition out the back of the building. And then it just turned out that a lifelong friend of mine who's an architect said, hey, there's a space downtown. I'm going to take half of it. You take the other half, and let's build this out together instead of you just putting an addition on the back of your building. So he's got the front suite and I've got the back suite of the office, and it's true furniture showroom. So it took a year of planning and it took a year of construction. I had to build it. I had to buy it. I had to put it in place. And now we're just starting to really, market it. And you can't just throw everything out there to the world of Instagram and say, this is what I've got. I've got this furniture showroom, come by, because then you'd be overwhelmed and you couldn't provide the quality that's necessary. We took the time that we were building this space out to have strategic meetings with all of our vendors. A lot of them insisted on walking the space, seeing how many square feet we had, interviewing us on our current sales, our projected sales, looking at our business plan. They wanted to ensure that we weren't just a buyer's group, right? Like just not a bunch of designers putting together their trade accounts.
Or a scammer, because we've seen lots of scammers in the last couple of years, right? Who were taking money, their businesses weren't solid. They were taking people's money, not putting in the orders, taking the money and run. I mean, we've seen some crazy stuff over the last 2 to 3 years. So I really appreciate that the vendors did their own due diligence with you, right? Not just, hey, you've been buying from us for years and your accounts are all great, but you're looking to go to the next step and we need to do the next step as well.
And they've come in here subsequent too, to check how we're displaying their things. If it's prime enough for them, if we have enough of their fabric samples or finishes, and it's turned into a different relationship now. They're servicing us a little more regularly, making sure we're comfortable and good. And then that in turn helps us even with our own private clients, right? Like we just turn things over faster for our own clients. It's like a positive that I didn't even know would happen.
So as you have diversified from, I'm going to say, this interior design, you've added in from the very beginning some amount, which probably could grow or shrink for architecture based on what the need is at the time, right? So now we've up leveled, you have a full architecture architect on staff in addition to yourself. Now you've added in the trade. This is very different business model than what you thought you were starting when you began. Like you've got multiple
Sure.
income streams here, but how does that help your business to know that you have multiple ways for money income to come in and flow through the company?
Um, well, it takes the pressure off, right? Sometimes we have to do you have to do sales constantly. You can never stop selling. Otherwise you can't feed the beast. But sometimes sometimes I have to sort of come down off of that sales ledge just to be the creative and pull the design ideas or the marketing ideas or whatever's next, right? Because I have to go into another twirl about, creating something new. And it just takes that pressure off because you know that that other business is going to help support. It supports all the things. It supports keeping our accounts at that minimum level that we discussed with our vendors and where we wanted to sell at per year. It helps us get more in tune to their products, and we know a little more of the nuance as a team, so we can sell more confidently. And it's just yet another business stream that helps not be all about me. Like it's just nice to have something that's going on its own.
Your team also really loves to support the client. You're very client focused. And so now you have other designers who are your clients on the trade side. How do you feel about your relationship in supporting their businesses and really building that out? Because one focus is let's just focus on the end user, the family that's going to be in the home we're in. But now some of that same energy is turned towards back to the industry, back to the design community. How do we really support them? I know that you've taken some of the same value set that you have as a company, and you've turned that to love on these designers and to care for their businesses and try to support them well. What did that look like as you were thinking of how do we add a second or a third, if you will, leg to the business, but also carry on the values? Because we went back all the way to what is your why? What is your mission, vision, values? How do we take all the things that we've built AHD on and turn that towards AHD trade? Did you find that to be a simple process, a difficult process, or just the same, pick it up and look at it? Or did you see a difference there?
There's not a difference. The one thing that I can point to is we want to be the person telling you the status of something way before you ask, right? So we have that in our SOPs and in the way we run our business. We do Friday updates to every client, even if I have nothing to say, other than it's going to be a great weekend. Hope you got your bathing suit ready. Like nothing. We run AHD Trade the same way. You've ordered a product from us. I don't want you wondering where it is, when it's coming in. You're going to get an update. You're going to get a status report. You're going to get an explanation if that status has changed. And that's part of our SOPs, is to bring that to you at least every 2 weeks, if not sooner. We're also working on a program that we would have where they could log into like a portal, and then the updates would be on that portal and you would know exactly what they are. But that won't take away from the personal email that will be sent, because that would be sent as well. I don't like it when clients say, hey, what's the status of, right? I want to be able to say to them, here's all of the things we worked on this week. Here's 2 things that we need decisions from you. I look forward to next week, and whatever it may be. And AHD Trade's the same way.
So very proactive instead of very reactive, right? You know what I love about that is when you have been on the side of the fence that you've been on as the designer, placing the orders, wondering when they're coming in, all of that. It gives you an insight when you now are on the trade side of it to say, this is how I wish I had information. So this is how I want to give information. And I know it's so much easier when people tell us than we have to even remember to ask, because that becomes our mental load again. And what I hear you saying is, when you place the order, we want to carry some of that mental load so that you don't have to carry it. So then we're going to update you so that you don't have to chase us to get the answer.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to ever have clients wondering. And I think of everybody as a client, right? The person building a brand new house, the woman buying a sofa for her client, they're all the same to me. They're all clients, and they deserve the same mission, vision, and values that we have as a firm. So and the other thing
go ahead.
Sorry. The other thing I'd like to talk about is the world of interior design has changed. And I don't know if it's because of the circles that I'm in, or if it's just changing for the better. It's changing for the better. It used to be very guarded, very secretive. You didn't know how much something cost, or you didn't know where you got something or the source of it. Now I'm on a bunch of different chat groups with local interior designers that we all call on each other for help. Different Facebook groups, different mastermind groups where nobody's afraid to share how they do something, because I feel like for so many years, interior designers didn't want anybody else to know how they ran their business, what they did, or to whom they did it with. They wanted to keep everything secret. And by sharing this knowledge base with these different groups, I mean, I have one of my dearest colleague friends out in California, and I'll call her at 8 o'clock in the morning. It's 5 o'clock in the morning her time, but she's up, and we'll talk about different things, and we'll strategize, and I'll give her strategy. She gives me strategy. Because if we could step outside of our own drama that we're sitting in and look at it from a designer's perspective, and that's the way it is with AHD Trade. It's a resource run by designers for designers. So you never have to worry. You don't have to be afraid. Like if you pick a fabric sofa that's terrible for a kid that wipes chocolate on the sofa, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to protect you. I'm going to help you through that. And my team is going to help you through that. So it's more than just somebody that on the internet that you're just buying a sofa from, because there's a lot of buying groups on the internet. This is, real people really to help you.
I love that. You know, what's also interesting, I remember the day, I know you remember it too. I can remember a design, actually being with a group of designers, and the designer showed a picture, and another designer, I mean, they were in a mastermind group, and the second designer asked the first designer, oh my goodness, I love, whatever this element is, where did you source that? And the first designer looked at her and said, I prefer not to share where I source things. This was in a closed designer group. This wasn't like with a homeowner. This was a closed, and the whole group at that point just kind of shut down, because everybody was like, they didn't know what to say. Like, why are we here masterminding if we're not going to, I mean, did it really matter where they bought that, let's say, lamp? Did it really matter that another designer couldn't go find that lamp and buy that lamp? But they were so protective of that one source, as if they were the only one that could sell it. It really shut down kind of that collective feeling of sharing and being in it together with that particular group. And, that person wasn't invited in anymore, because they were taking and not giving. It was so weird. And so now that's not what we see. We see a lot more into the sharing, and that there's enough work. My goodness, most people are, things may be changing, but people are still pretty busy, and they're still have work to do. There's still a lot out there, and sharing is caring, as they say. So
yeah. And you know what? Intellectual property is, it's how you put it all together. It's not necessarily the components, because with AI and your cell phone, you can figure out 90% of what something is. There's not that much that's hidden anymore. So what's the big secret? Like, unless you created it and had it custom made and it doesn't exist anywhere else, somebody will find it.
And then it won't be long. You're going to copy it anyway.
Right. And I don't take that as a copy, right? It's a compliment. You
Yeah.
loved something so much that I put into a space. So you're going to use it completely differently.
Mm-hmm.
So why not
Yes.
give it to you? I'll give
So
it
why
to you.
not?
And I'll sell it to you too if you want it.
I love it. I love it. All right. So let me ask you this as we wrap up. Do you have any thoughts for the next diversification, or are you going to sit still with this one for a little bit?
No, I have to sit still. The last 2 years have been a ladder climb, and I want to enjoy where we are. This furniture showroom it's fabulous. It feels so good to walk in every day. I'll share some pictures with you. And I just want to be. We've grown year over year. I don't know, the percentages, a crazy number, 800% since we started or something. So I think it might be nice to you know, just for this year. I'm not saying that I'm sure I have some other idea in my head. I mean, I have a bunch of noodling ideas, but I'm just gonna grow these two beautifully. I mean, we also do architecture, full construction homes now.
Right.
So that's a lot. That's 3 full businesses.
I wasn't looking for you to have another. Just know that. And if you do, it may be one of your team members who comes to you with another great idea.
Yeah.
Right. And I love that as well. So Anastasia, as we wrap up, where can people find out more about your design firm and the trade program?
So everything can be found on our primary website, which is ahdandco.com. On the upper right-hand corner, there's a button if you want to go to trade, or if you want to go through our website. It's all one central location. The trade is a member-only program, but it is not a paid-for membership. All you do is sign up, just so that we can vet who we're selling to ensure that they have the proper credentials and resale certificates. Like I said, we're licensed and we have resale certificates in New York, Florida, and New Jersey, and I am licensed in architecture for New York and New Jersey and Florida. But we sell all around the country. We sell to California, Louisiana, everywhere.
Awesome.
So whatever anybody needs, we can get them.
That sounds amazing. Well, thank you again for sharing some of your journey, how to diversify, also lessons in how to support our team members when they come up with a really great idea. I mean, I love that this was somebody on your team who, by kind of restructuring their role in the company, saw an opportunity and was willing, not just saw the opportunity and wanted to dump it on you, but created a plan and said, will you support me and can we do this? And I love that you did that. Yeah. I don't see that happen all the time. And I know it wasn't easy for you either, right? It still took a lot of your resources to support that team member. But I love that it's out there and that it's growing and flourishing. So thank you for sharing that journey with our listeners.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anastasia, for sharing your journey, sharing how your business has evolved and changed. What's so exciting to me, even in this conversation, is just knowing and understanding that the way we start our business doesn't have to be the way that it remains or the way that it continues to grow. It can change and evolve. And that's exciting for me. If you want to talk about maybe some ways to diversify your own business, please go to the Work With Me page at scarletthreadconsulting.com and fill out a discovery form and let's chat. Being intentional with your income streams will lead to profit, and profit doesn't happen by accident. Profit is a Choice is proud to be part of the designnetwork.org, where you can discover more design media reaching creative listeners. Thanks for listening, and stay creative and business-minded.